Yes, I forgot to unmute the mic source. Anyways, as I was saying, got a unplanned stream here that a while back I was inspired to make a Borderlands inspired computer case out of their diamond loot chest. And yeah, so back in like January 2020, I ordered some parts for it. You might recall a couple things happened since then. One of the video card, which these days might be the last video card I ever buy. Who knows what's going on with that market? The video card took over 6 months to arrive. I'm just happy it did, honestly. But yeah, you can see if you're familiar with this case design, I've already made a few modifications to it here, with some spots for future things. Let me get that out of the way. One of the ideas for it is to drill out or router out each one of these little grooves and turn this into vent holes. And also doing a bunch of modifications to the back here. But the first thing I need to do before I get into all of that is figure out how things are actually going to fit in here. Because it's entirely possible that this motherboard won't even work in here. Part of the idea, let me turn this slightly on an angle, is to, as I said, turn these into vents and then actually cut a giant opening in this area. And then we can install these fans in here. And if there's just enough room for everything, it'll just fit in like that on each side. Will this work? Let's find out today. This neat little frame that I found. What we're going to do is we're going to set this stuff aside so we have room to work with and see what we can do with this. Let's get a some music here.
Elementary, my dear, said St. George to the maiden as he drove his halberd home. The worm was weak in the small of his throat. It fluttered when he spewed smoke. I knew he would follow you tame as a kitten when properly tied and subdued. With pressure just there, he could not resist you. A poor dragon, I must conclude. The princess looked down at the scaly corpse.
Like I said, wasn't planning on doing this at all today.
The dragon was less than the legends had told. Thin and fiery, but not much meat. Smaller up close, all grimy and gory, with dull claws and teeth all brown.
So yeah, it's a neat little adjustable frame here for setting up motherboards and such. originally a mini ATX design that was just for that. So, and the idea is that rather than worrying about how these mount, I'm going to just drill holes through the bottom and use these channels to just mount that directly to the plastic. So let's take a look at the motherboard that we've got here. There's a lot of reasons why I picked this particular motherboard, but the primary one is the look of it. It's just arrived today, so let's get this out here and see how much of a problem this is going to be. So I wanted something that had, I've been kind of fond of the ASRock TAICHI design in the past. I'll be honest, partially because of the name, but I also like their general design aesthetic, and they tend to be really good with the features. I wasn't expecting this to be an actual gear. I thought that was just a sticker. I mean, I doubt it's a gear, but gives it nice Jacobs, and I feel like there's a bit of an Atlas Melon feel to this too. Well, let's see what. So, not particularly tied to one manufacturer, but perhaps embodying all of the or a good portion of what's out there. I mean, hopefully I don't get to the point of throwing this and having it explode. So, maybe not all of the manufacturers. And I need to get some cutters for this, because this is actually strapped down into this foam packaging. First question I had was, can I take it out? Okay, good. Leave it in there. I will say, I am a little bit bothered by there not being a cover on the processor socket. Tempted to put the processor in right now, just because of that. Now let's at least get a fitting first. I'll show this a little bit better later, but an interesting touch of a lot of these newer designs is just full metal or partial metal plates, just protecting the entire circuit boards. It also gives it some rigidity, so as you're pushing in some of these connectors, you don't have to worry as much about the system's the board twisting. I think I've actually lost a motherboard or two over the years just from the board flexing as it gets moved from locations or cases. So, just a quick fit. So this, just at a glance, we do have a little bit of space back here, and this length is good enough. So yeah, this looks like it might work. This is the power supply mount. I'm not caring about that because I will just melt the. this isn't going to go for any kind of standard case design, so I'm just gonna probably mount the power supply under the lid over here. Oh, you know, I might actually move it into one of those side pods. That could work. I'll figure that out later. So, what we need to do here is look at how these will line up with the various mounting holes. So I've got 3 on the back, so those 3. Then 2, that should be those 2. Three up here, we only have 2. Should be enough. If we go here and here, we're not putting a huge amount of pressure on the video card socket. I do appreciate with these high-end boards that the manufacturers have not even been bothering to put a socket next to the video card. They just assume you're going to be using a 2-slot solution. You know, if you bought a board like this, that's the direction you're going to be going. So. What I need to do is get a screwdriver and start moving this stuff around. First thing I want to do is pull out the anchor screws, which are coming out on the wrong side. So let's screw that. And I just noticed that the music's on repeat of the one song. Let me fix that. Sorry about that. So one of the things that's going to happen with this build here is after I install everything, I'm going to have to take it all apart again to do some of the attaching. Well, I don't know, I might not have to do that. Yeah, I think I was saying before that I'm expecting to have to after I put this together and make sure all the pieces work, I'm probably going to have to take it all apart again at some point during all the build fitting, just to make sure all the pieces fit together properly. You don't necessarily want to be doing all sorts of hole cutting over a circuit board, at least if you can help it. Do we have a spot for the center one? Yes, we do. Okay. So the one fixed point I want to keep here is I want to make sure that I have at least that much room. I even want to bring that in a little bit. Check the fit on this again. Make sure my memory isn't playing tricks on me. Okay, yeah, there's quite an extra bit of gap in there. But if I made that fit directly there, it would be a nice standard of spacing to work with. And I'd know for sure which end that one side is clamped to that end. Best way of doing this. Treat it like it would be in the case. Yes, this is a sonic screwdriver. Are any of you really surprised? It's a really silly thing, but I actually like to cut these zip ties as close as possible to the end of the tail so you can actually reuse it rather than just clipping it randomly in the middle or something like that. I don't know, I just feel like I've always hit this point where it's like I always just needed one more of them. And it's just always handy to have a few spares around. looks like I've got that column and that column lining up pretty closely. So let's start with moving this one. You don't want to completely undo these, just loosen them slightly, because they're this square nut assembly that fits along the track. That, as I recall, was a pain to get lined up the right way the first time. Might have to come back and readjust these later. Actually, I bet we absolutely will have to come back and readjust these later, but gotta start somewhere. Kind of funny, I've never... That's gotta go, actually, this little frame piece. But that's okay. So, you can actually see how these little square pieces screw down into the track there. I'm being very careful not to put too much weight down onto this, because I honestly don't know where all this stuff is touching. And that'd be really sad if I ended up knocking a capacitor off or scratching something important. Do all that lining up and then just knock it all over the place as I finish that. So okay, that's close enough for now. I'm anticipating this being a lot of adjusting, a lot of repeated adjusting here. There. Hey Siebert, how's it going? Oh, or no, that's not the question I want to ask. What's interesting today? Oh, that's smart. What was what's that in reference to? Or oh, probably maybe talking when I was talking about the wait. Oh, excellent. You, zip ties, yeah. Yeah, I was taught to be a bit thrifty. It pays off sometimes. So you've got your, yeah. I'm actually just a few days to the two. It was the 15th, 16th. Which one was Friday? So I'm almost at my 2 weeks past the second shot. Honestly, still terrified about interacting with anyone. I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like, oh, you're like, 95%, 98% effective. And I look at that and go, the number of times I've been playing a game and have gone 2% chance of doing something. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take those odds. So I think I want to bring that in just a little bit. No, and I had no side effects at all. Well, there's some reactionary effect to just being around people and like dealt with some kind of flashbacks based around being medically treated in that way for the first time in a while. But as far as I wasn't even ever that sleepy, and the second shot I didn't even feel it. Like, what I'm seeing here is the up-down spacing is a little bit off. And while I could move one of these in there, that's going to take it too high. Yeah, and I don't mean, I don't say that as like an attack on anyone who is excited to get out. Oh, here's an interesting highlight. I was lining that up with so that there would just be just enough room for the fan. The motherboard extends past this line, so I actually need to bring the whole thing in more, or not worry about that. That's an interesting decision. I think what we'll do here . Yeah, so if you missed the opening, I got inspired to take one of these things and turn this. Oh, that's not a great shot of it. Take one of these loot boxes here and turn it into a Borderlands 3 inspired computer case. So it's a lot of custom parts and nifty things like that. Are you familiar with this, with the game at all, or the universe? Yeah, there's a bunch of different gun manufacturers in there, and one is this. There's one that has a very classic mechanical. Everything is still, refined machinery, gears and levers and equipment fitting together in well crafted mechanisms. Called Jacobs, and so we've got the gears there, and then the watch. I get this backwards, and I'm just gonna get roasted for it. The Maliwan weapons that always have two different fire modes with different elements, so there's like this duality of design there, and then just the Atlas, which is like, the sleek, refined, clean lines, weaponry, and I feel like this motherboard kind of has that idea, or those ideas floating around with it. Plus, there's a few other bits and pieces. Let's do it this way. Let's loosen all of these. This is the clamping mechanism for these here. It actually rides on that screw head that also is what clamps it down. Now that we've got everything free floating, what we're going to do here is line up bits of it. like the general position of that one. Up just a tad. That may have been too much of a tad. We'll see here. Yep. You know, I suppose I could measure this. Was not an ideal sound for a project like this. Tip this up without causing problems. It's funny, it looks like that should be directly across. That wasn't lining up. These out of here. Let's see clearly here. So things like this, as far as doing something really crazy like this kind of design, got a lot of, I mean, I built a lot of just computers where it's like, oh, here's an interesting case. But as far as any of the cases, like very non-traditional, either like very tiny or in some cases like the size of an end table, you know, things like that. But as far as just kind of sort of freehanding something, design, you know, making up a custom design, I half did a TARDIS once. And then I found out there was, so what I'd done is taken a this is a standard motherboard. I'd actually inverted it sideways, and so all the connectors and stuff came from underneath, and the design was that it fits on top of the stand. The cables are on this little circular stand underneath with like a storage compartment and then little doors and a light and such. And it was something that I was slowly building, and then I found out that there was actually an inherent flaw in the in that chipset's USB 3.0 controller. So that what would happen was any type of, you could use it as a slightly fast interface, or, you know, just as a standard USB 2 thing, but anything that tried to operate at the full speed would actually cause severe data drops to the point where it would actually corrupt files. It was the kind of thing of like once you encounter it and go back and look at the stories, it's like, oh yeah, we discovered there was this flaw here. We recommend buying a new board. And at that point, there was all the controller bits didn't line up. The SATA ports were facing in the wrong direction, and just a whole bunch of stuff. It was like, okay, kind of have to start over. Oh, and I'm moving. Yeah, maybe I'll just set that aside. actually moving things in multiple axes here right now. Just a tad distracted. It looks like with all of that set, that post needs to move slightly. As I'm doing it this way, I'm seeing that this was actually the right way to do this, given that the framework isn't perfectly square. So just trying to line it up ahead of time was kind of difficult. I was going to say a fool's errand, but it's not that bad. Okay. Probably putting stress on parts in ways I don't really want to think about. But hopefully, the fact that I'm doing slow tightening will mean it won't torque anything out of the way too badly. That seems good enough. Yeah, I will say that the case in my mind, yeah, it did sound, it was that amazing. From a practical standpoint, having all the cables running through the bottom, it's one of those cases where I was a bit ahead of my time, because now there's all sorts of right angle connectors for for doing that kind of stuff. Back then, not so much, so it got a little bit convoluted at times. Okay. Well, so we know that fits. So another thing about Borderlands is there's alien technology from like these ancient races, and well, this wasn't the design that I was originally intending to go with. This stuff is what arrived, and so I'm going to take a look and see how this looks. I'll be honest, I was intending to use these for a different case design. But with the video card shortage and all that kind of stuff, I might not actually get around to building that. And the other memory isn't available just yet, so at least take a look at these and see what they look like. They also come with a one where this bracket is black instead of white. For some reason, the white ones are like $100 cheaper right now. The black ones were the cheaper ones, but as memory prices have been driving up, everyone's been going after the black ones. So, yeah, I kind of actually like this design better. See how this ends up looking, but at least for now. And in this case, it doesn't really matter which socket I put these in, since we're filling the whole thing. But if it was just going to be two of them, we'd want to check the motherboard manufacturer and see if they had a recommended, here's where to put the first sticks. I should probably put some more music on, maybe. I don't know. Any requests? More Marion Call, Juliana Finch, Sarah Donner, Kitten Slay Dragons. Someone else? Well, thank you for that. It's also give me a chance to stand up straight for a second while I check the playlist here. Sorry, I'm also, while I'm aside here, I'm noticing that I did nothing at all to do decent lighting. So let's see if we can function with that without going blind. Yeah, it might be too bright, but for now it's fine, I think. Bounce that one off the ceiling. And all of a sudden I'm noticing something. I do not see where the M2 slot is. That tells me it's under this. So let's see what's in the manual. This is very nice. They actually included a screwdriver. But yes, here's the example of the guide I was talking about, where they say, like, here's how to install the memory. Yeah, so in this particular case, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from the processor out. Sometimes they'll be alternating sometime. Well, actually, I should point this out. Well, they say A1, A2, B1, B2. Depending on what type of configuration and frequency, the best results are best results for if you just have one stick of memory, it's actually in the A2 slot. Why is that? Well, it's stuff involving how the memory controller interacts with things. Oh, neat, a postcard. But the short version is just trust them. They know what they're talking about. Yeah, so all of the slots I need to get to are underneath this. This also actually wasn't the processor I was planning on putting in here. But I actually got a discount with a birthday coupon. And that also adjusted some of my plans. You know, I understand that like we need to like assert value for what you're buying, but like all this is a hollow space and a little bit in here. I do appreciate that they still give stickers so you can put what kind of processor you have on the case there. Sure. And that one's the notch. It's a little triangle and a gap in a space that line up here. But sometimes it can be a little bit deceptive, so I just want to make sure. There we go. We'll get to the heatsink later, because depending which heatsink I use, it might block off this stuff. Hey, you know, the number of times I've fixed something that way, Yeah, no, I'm all for encouraging that. So the hard drive that we're going with here. Set this stuff aside. Yeah, no, it's like what works, right? You know? I mean, I'm sure like these days, you know, maybe you could have talked to somebody about getting like a new hinge 3D printed or something like that, but like the amount of often replacing one of those hinges meant replacing like the whole chassis because it was a unified piece. Certainly gluing it wouldn't work well. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times just a quick repair like that is actually your best solution. Even if you had to like duct tape it every year or every 6 months, it's like, sure, but you know, sometimes it's just about what keeps you going. Funny thing is I have a set of Torx drivers right over here anticipating this, but why spend time finding the right piece when they just send it to you? Set those aside because finding those later is going to be annoying. Is there... Why doesn't the third one want to come out? Or I should say, is there a third one? Because taking out 2 of those doesn't feel like enough. Okay. I should probably double check and make sure which one of these I want to put this in, because there's actually multiple slots. There's the third one. And I should probably make sure it's going in one that can be a boot drive or isn't taking over control of the external connectors or something like that. Is that a hinge? What am I missing here? Three screws. This is absolutely not the kind of thing you want to force. The weird thing is it feels like it's attached there. But none of that's supposed to be attached. Okay, so the first one's a Gen 3, second one's Gen 4, and the third one is Gen 4. Third one disables the PCIe slot. Just listen to the screw before you install. That was disconcerting. Oh, there's actually a heatsink pad. Good to know. It was literally taped together. I want to make sure to do this quickly and not get anything on there because I want to seal this up again. Say that about being quick, and suddenly occurs to me, I don't know if this is a Gen 3 or Gen 4 piece. I'll show you the heat pad in a second here. So you may have heard people talk about heatsink compound, which is a thing designed to fill gaps. Okay, this is a 3. The idea that you've got very small molecular gaps in between two metal pieces as they meet, and you want to improve the thermal barrier, or decrease the thermal barrier between them so they conduct heat as well as possible. In this particular case, this whole metal panel here is designed to be a heat sink. Now there is a secondary chip lift this up that controls a good portion of the stuff, that has its own cooler, and they put this adhesive thermal pad in here to connect to this and help dissipate more of that heat. I would suggest that there might be some issues with running multiple sources to this one heatsink. Given if one thing is hotter than the other, you might end up with some cooling issues. But honestly, in either of these cases, I don't see it being a big deal. The heat dissipation that's involved is not that significant. feel like people have gotten a little bit overly obsessed about cooling these cards. Not gonna say it's not a bad idea, but now what I'm doing is, after deciding that I want to use slot 1, I'm looking up to see which one is slot 1, because it is not clearly labeled. Hopefully their layout diagram is right in the front, but you have to remember that it's in the front when you've gotten used to it being way in the back all the time. Let's see, is this on camera? Yeah, okay, this is decently on camera. So these hard drives, this is actually the hard drive for the system. Folds in like that, and then lines up with that peg, which thankfully is in the right spot here. And we get one of these itty bitty screws. Yep. I'm sure there's a name for this kind of oh, did that just break? That would be interesting. For this kind of spring interface, but I do not remember what it's called right now. You know what? That does not feel right. These are all the same. Usually they don't click like a key like that. It's not going any further down in. So it should be one like that. So I move it to the slot it's designed for. Try to move one of these things. That's a little frustrating. Let's see if those are supposed to move. I'm supposed to screw in that way. Let's pull this out. First thing I want to look at is if there's a fastener for those on the other side. Actually see, they certainly look threaded. They've just been machine threaded, so it's like I think they've just been machine tightened, so it's similar to like trying to change a trying to change a tire after it's been like air wrench tightened. It's just too hard to do softly by hand. I don't know if I'd pointed it out. Well, I've got all that removed here. Let me give you a good look at that heating pad here. And find a good spot to hold on to this. Yep. Gonna get a focus. Yeah. So that little gray square there, and you can see where it interacts with this solid metal plate, basically. You want to help something cool down? Just stick a metal thing on it. So before I really drive myself nuts with this, I'm just going to take a look and see if they say anything about recommended boot drives or... Because sometimes the BIOS will be like, oh, now I prefer to boot off of this, or if I boot off this drive, then you can't boot off the other drives. The other thing I'm looking at right now too is what's the optimum thermal location for this. What are the chances? Yeah, let's put it in the best slot for it, because otherwise that's just gonna bug me later. Yeah. just a little tad of pressure with a decent set of pliers, and I can just take that up by hand, and I can put in the lower. Let's see if this shows up on camera at all. Here's, not with that lighting. Yeah, here's the difference between the standoffs. One of these has a recessed socket, and one of these has a socket that stands out. Those are for a slightly different kind of part. But yeah, this is the future of hard drives here, which I'm probably showing a serial number that I shouldn't be, but yeah. Now that I think about it, I've probably done that a few times now, but not sure what could register something, like get warranty support for me. But yeah, I'd honestly rather not be using these at all, but the important thing is that I don't leave that sticker in there, because that would be really messy to leave those. You know what those are? Those are the mounting holes for this bracket. That's intriguing. That's right, that's the Torx. So that's... really should have noticed that earlier. So I might actually need to put that... well, no, there should be a way of doing this. They want to put one... I'm really, really embarrassed that I didn't catch that, though. So the question is, would that work? What that's going to do... It does seem to fold it down properly. And I'll certainly hold it in place. So let's see where this goes. Oh, so I found out the reason why the camera kept cutting it out on me during the Lego build is I was using a USB-C to the one USB-C port on the motherboard directly. I'm using the special high-speed cable, which I suppose I should try a different one, see if the cable was actually a problem. I tried the cable elsewhere and that worked fine though. But yeah, it appears to be that that particular interface couldn't handle the camera properly. And I looked for a driver update for that board, and the drivers haven't been updated since 2017. So, okay, so we've got the drive installed. Now we need to look at the heatsink options. There's a couple I have here. Honestly, I would love to use this butterfly one. Like I said, I've been a fan of alternate case designs and just having a nice little butterfly. Unfortunately, this is a little out of date and isn't able to cool the modern chips as well as it can. That one's out of date too. We have this one. It's funny that it calls this low profile. I suppose compared to the giant blocks it is. So we got this big UFO looking thing, which probably will go in like that. Kind of like how that looks. We'll have to look at the other, we'll have to look at the exact mounting options there. The other option would be, and that lights up purple. The other option is this thing here. This is a coolant radiator system. So it's this little block that fastens on here, and then it has a radiator similar to a car radiator that goes elsewhere in the case and vents. Which this one, if I can get some decent lighting on this, has a little dragon on it. And this lights up multiple colors in a little triangle. think for now we're going to try with this, because that was how I intended this one to be. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I have any other case, at least anytime soon, that is going to fit in. And it fits the aesthetic. I'm not sure if the Dragon has a general design that fits the Borderlands aesthetic, but there's actual like Atlas vehicles that kind of look like this. So now we get to install a mounting kit of some type. Kit might be a little bit out of date. So the other thing I'm being distracted by is there's a marker on the motherboard that suggests I may have, after all that, gotten the slots mixed up. Two, three, 2, 2, 2.1. One, two, two. Oh. So what I saw was that the last line talking about with Raven Edge and Ridge and Pinnacle Ridge, Gen 3 support at 2x speed. That slot also supports 64 with 4x4 speed. So all three of them have the high-speed capacity. So I was worrying over nothing. But onto this mounting kit to see what options we have. So this is a little bit frustrating in that it looks like I'm going to have to remove the manufacturer's mounting brackets here and install their own mounting brackets. So I want to check online to see if, to make sure this one supports that processor. So I'm just checking and making sure that the manufacturer recommends that for a processor that can be cooled. The danger is that the danger is that there might not be enough cooling capacity for that level of processor. Seems to be fine. It is amusing how they claim that this is a toolless install, even especially when they even give you a tool for it. Wiring. I do wonder if I can get away with like using the existing stuff though. Somehow to that. These. Okay. I do love how they're just like, here's B and C. Maybe one of them's larger? Do they actually have? Ah, the Intel ones have an eye-shaped hole. Okay. Go in around. Wait, which way are they supposed to go? It doesn't... Probably supposed to go that way, aren't they? So that that bracket lines up. Here we have the first of the two mounting wings there. What's really funny is with one slight adjustment, I could make it so that I could do the music voice controlled. Have I done that adjustment? No. Will I ever do that adjustment? Who knows? Okay. There's those attached. And as much as I'd love to cheat and use these mounting brackets, fortunately they've got to come out. I swear it becomes real handy having access to both sides of the motherboard, though. That sound was the existing plate coming out. I wonder if we could use the plate. That'd be kind of nice. Oh, they have improved these back plates, though. They used to be made out of a cheaper plastic, and these are actually, tell by the feel that they're, at least, it's still plastic, I think, but it's at least kind of a little bit of carbon fiber included in there. But that just is flush. No, that sticks out a little bit. Yeah, threading isn't the same. Yep, so we got to go through and take these little pieces and they line up into those sockets. And then we get the AMD size caps, opposed to the ones that go over those. And those fit on there. And then these caps go on like that. And all this is so that they don't have to put more than one screw into this. Well, actually that's not true. If they put one on both of these, then it wouldn't actually fit the motherboard. So you'd have to like take one out or do something. Boy, that's such an odd angle. It looks like it's not on right. But do the holes line up? Not entirely, because that one needs to be down there. Okay. And as you hold it on one side, you screw these in on the other. Remember that that's not a handle. So these form the mounting posts. I really don't like how loose that is. That's not typical for this kind of thing. Yeah, because this will just kind of float right out here. You can mount it to those, but chance I put those on backwards? Not according to anything it's telling me. The problem I'm having here is that these are supposed to be a mechanically tight connection, where you put this on here. Let's even see if that lines up. These line up? No. Yeah, this spacing just doesn't work at all for this. I put these on backwards. They're supposed to hook in, not hook out. So the thing is, even with attaching this stuff the right way, it's going to be a critical problem here. Yeah, that's also not high enough. So everything about that is wrong. It needs to be that high. leaning back towards going with this plate here. I think that's still, I still could do something like that, but no, that doesn't even hold. Yeah, there's not, this should be a snug fit. This shouldn't wiggle around like this. Looking to see if these are different heights. I don't think so. I'm looking at the markings on this that say AMD and Intel, one on each side, and I'm wondering if they've got it the wrong way around. Looking at the plates a bit here. Well, no, that couldn't work, because if the plate is the wrong way around, then those posts wouldn't fall into the notches, and they'd actually protrude out even further. Those are actually shorter than that. So switching to that plate shouldn't help in any way. Yeah. Let's do the exact same thing again. Let's see if we get a different result. No, there's no way that can work, because nothing will tighten that down onto that. If I use these, kind of frustrating here is these almost match up that bracket, but not enough to actually be usable. This is actually supposed to be like a spring-loaded bracket where it hooks over that end and then meets the other end. If there's any other mounting hardware in here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at the other mounting, the other heatsink kit here, and see if any of this stuff makes sense. Looks like it's a similar design to the stock coolers. good news is I might be able to cheat this. S and H. So I feel like I'm all the way back to doing Lego sets again. So the humor here is maybe I could cheat it, except I didn't include a piece. I guess. Let's take a stab online and see if someone else has encountered this problem.
pushing on through, keeping our heads down. Dodging sticks and stones with our hearts on the ground. Running out of places to keep all that shade. Till just someone calls us by our name. See who you are. I know you're scarred. 'Cause they're the same ones I've got on my heart.
Sorry, I know this is riveting here.
Raised on pretending there was a part for us in that storybook ending. Now that we're grown, we see we're not alone. What do we find? Other girls were here all the time. The other girls were here all the time. Other girls are here all the time. Sitting up on the roof at your parents' house. Counting days until you come out.
Well, the best I could find was that I'm not the only one who has problems with this. first question to ask is, can these fit in any way whatsoever? Oh, okay, so it's just going to, the whole idea is it just is going to pull it tight. Yeah. Suppose I've seen worse designs. So basically, it's just supposed to be really, really loose until it's not. I don't see how that works, though. Yeah. I'll try it one more time here and. I do wonder. Those definitely don't fit. Yeah, that doesn't help either, but let's see. Yeah. That's the worst that can happen. We have to take it off one more time. It does look like this particular cooler was manufactured before this particular socket design. Possibly. I don't know that for certain, but Oh, right. I was going to turn that off. Yes, I'm performing the greatest sin, using the built-in, or the provided substance. Which, this stuff really isn't about conducting, it's about removing air in between the two. So that's the thing that you want to make sure. You don't need a huge amount. You don't really need, you don't want to put it on both surfaces because that just gives it a greater chance to trap an air bubble in there. And I could compare it to dough in that way, of folding over dough. So now what we do is get much smaller hands. Oh, you know what? I bet if I press it from the bottom, that'll give me just the amount I need. And then we're going to go in a cross or X pattern here. The idea of that gives us the most even application of torque. This is a pretty standard thing. You know what I didn't look at is I didn't look at what direction made sense for the wires. However, I don't want my choices here on this side or over the RAM, since I can't position that rotation at all. So, I'm happy with what I picked. That was intentional, I'm sure. Can you believe there was a time when they had these things as bare chips without that casing on them? That was always nerve-wracking, because it's one of those things of you had to make sure that the heat sink was on tight, or else it wouldn't make contact, but too tight and you crack your chip. Ooh. It's not the worst tool I've ever had for doing something like this, but I put it in one of my least favorites. Everything that's designed to be helpful is actually a hindrance. So rather than just having an open wrench, it's capped, which is supposed to be helpful, but it just makes it harder to get into the smaller spaces. And then these edges are kind of rounded, so it doesn't... the only place you can really contact is right at the very top, just right in the exact kind of way. And so a spot like this where both the memory and the sync. Yeah, well, that ended up working, so go with that. So technically, we've got a computer now. These cords here are this is the lights? Yeah. We've got the light controller and then the power. There's CPU fan number 1. But you do want to get the CPU in the right fan because they actually have sensors to keep track of what's going on there. We also have a light controller, which should be supported on this board. Is Burn Bright at 8 or 9? Oh, it seems fitting to be dealing with this on the same day as a RPG about things just not quite working. Okay, so the RGB connector should be... yeah, it's that one over there. I do kind of funny, find it kind of funny that these are the one connectors they don't give any guidance to as far as an alignment piece or some type of connector. So that one says that's USB, not light. Oh, I bet they're treating that as the USB connector. So let's double check. Okay, yeah, it's a special connector for the AMD USB connector. Profile audio, water pump, fan, 12 thunderbolts. That should be that one. Oh, and now we'll need to put in a video card because these chips don't do onboard audio. I'm just going to assume that this is in the wrong spot. Here. Here's another amusing bit here. This video card, as I mentioned, took 6 months to arrive. Here's the box it arrived in. I mean, that's probably fine, right? The fact that it's like no longer rectangular. Surprisingly, it did survive. And I'll show you why I was willing to ship something directly. I mean, that's not just damage, that's load-bearing damage. But I'll show you why I was willing to order this directly from China, because it's not sold in the States at all. because isn't this just the most adorable video card you've ever seen? Just noticing a little something on there. Yeah. Now eventually I might do something like put this on some kind of riser so that when you open the case it's staring right at you rather than in the normal video card position. We'll see how this looks here. I have tested it out in another computer and know it actually works. It's one of those parts where I'm kind of making it up as I go, because who knows if that's a proper fitting. But it feels right. Again, not something I'd recommend for any type of first-time builder. I might need to get an additional power connector for this. Let's see what we got here. This is a modular power supply, so I can plug the cables in first. suddenly very paranoid about my glass of water here. Oh, it's a Blythe. So let's see if I'm going to have to find another different power supply. So here's the interesting thing. I've seen ones with 8 volts requirements. And an 8-pin 12-volt requirement, and a 4-pin 12-volt requirement. I haven't seen one in a long time that requires both. And if this one actually requires both, this power supply is not going to work. Alright, let's see what blows up here. Yeah, just as long as you don't try to do a nap and a run at the same time. I mean, it kind of sounds like a good idea, but the logistics of it seem complicated. Let's see, where can I get power from here? Okay. So far, so good. Don't know if you can get a great look at the RAM from that position. yeah, I can't rotate this around. Let's see how. Yeah, it's just looking like a big glowing bar for you. What I can do. So it's good to see that that fan works. Get a full look there. So still a lot of work to do. We've got to I want to double check on that power supply requirement. It's possible that that's just for running more voltage to the video cards, and so as long as I'm not using a monster card, that's fine. And then get a monitor hooked up and do some programming, because all this stuff can be color controlled, so rather than flashing colors, we can pick a particular color or spectrum of colors. Video cards only purple, but everything else can be controlled. Still like to see what the Royal Z RAM looks like. It's got a kind of crystal-y structure. But with that fan design, though, that might be the better route. Oh, Starstruck is on. Yeah, let's call that good for today then. And thanks everyone for coming by, and hope you had a bit of fun here.